Hello guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you are having a fantastic day. I do hope you enjoy today's stories, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user ThrowRA Tide Tube Trap, titled 27 female accused of baby trapping my 28 male fiance when my tubes are tied? I had an argument with my fiance this morning. We've been dating for 2 years, engaged since September, and for the most part, everything has been going well. We've been planning a quiet backyard ceremony so that we can save up for a house instead. We've been communicative and managed to get through fights in the past, but this takes the cake. He's been evasive for the past 2 weeks about the wedding or any future plans that we've made, and I basically had to corner him this morning before leaving for work to ask him what's going on. It turns out while he was dog-sitting for his uncle early in February, they had a chat that stuck with him. When they were talking about life and how things have been, his uncle admitted that he resented his ex-wife for baby-trapping him, and now he's divorced while his ex-wife is dating again, and my fiance's cousin is an entitled asshat who terrorized him when they were both teenagers. Turns out it's been sitting in his mind. He says that he thinks I'm about to spring a pregnancy announcement on him and trap him in the marriage. This is despite the fact that he knows that I don't want kids. I basically raised my siblings and lost out on my childhood. I told him about not wanting kids when we first started dating. We were both on the same page, and I've asked him about getting a vasectomy in the past, which is why it's surprising that he thinks that I'm trying to baby trap him. The thing is, the first chance I got, which still took a long time, I got my tubes tied. I literally can't get pregnant. I reminded him of this fact, and that made him go really quiet. He didn't even apologize or say anything, so I told him that if he's going to act like this over a made-up issue in his head, I don't know how much I'd trust him in a real crisis. Now I'm wondering if I was too harsh and what steps we can take to move forward, or if I'm the right amount of angry and I should just end it. I have no idea what to do right now. In the comments, quote, he says that he thinks I'm about to spring a pregnancy announcement on him and trap him in the marriage. I'm confused. You stated that this man intends on marrying you, right? You're engaged? Baby trapping is when someone intentionally gets pregnant using methods like deception to keep their partner from leaving the relationship. Does he actually intend on marrying you? Quote, I literally can't get pregnant. I reminded him of this fact, and that made him go really quiet. He didn't even apologize or say anything. I would demand a response from him. His words and behaviors are a red flag. I would postpone the wedding until the relationship is in a better place. Maybe this needs to be addressed with a counselor. OP replies, the only reason I didn't drag a response from him is that I would have been late for work, and I have a meeting I couldn't miss. But if he doesn't have a response when I get home, I'm definitely going to call off the wedding, if not the relationship. His uncle sounds like a real winner, misogyny at its finest. Why is he afraid of getting trapped into marriage when he's literally planning a wedding with you? Like, the hell? Marriage also isn't a trap. Anyone can leave at any time, regardless of whether there is kids. And the fact that he forgot your tubes were tied? Is he dumb? You sound the right amount of angry to me. Personally, I'd be hesitant to marry someone who was so easily swayed by his sexist uncle that you're somehow trying to kick him into a life of misery. On top of that, he's been dwelling on this for 2 weeks and never once communicated what was going on with him. He just completely checked out until you forced it out of him. I'm not sure that I'd want to marry anyone who A, thinks marriage is a trap for men, B, let his uncle convince him that you're just like his ex-wife in one conversation, C, can't communicate or apologize, D, surrounds himself with such shitty male role models, and E, doesn't understand how tied tubes work. OP replies, I think this is exactly my problem. I don't know if he thinks I would deliberately ruin my life just to mess his up, or I've been lying since I met him. I don't want to make a knee-jerk decision, but I'm seriously reconsidering this relationship. Why is your fiancé worried that he'll be trapped in a marriage? Maybe don't get married? OP says, I don't even know. Maybe he thinks that he'd be trapped with a child that can't exist. Based on how you've described him in some other comments, is he mentally challenged in some way, or what's the deal? OP says, he's not. He's a smart guy, but he's weak when it comes to social influence. At best, he's impressionable. At worst, he can be somewhat spineless. I thought that he had improved a lot over the past couple of years, but I guess I was wrong. Yeah, I'm just going with this guy's a complete idiot, and you're more than welcome to marry him if you want to, but he may just continue to get impressed by these people. He will get challenged by these idiots in his life. Unless you can stamp it out right now and make sure that it doesn't happen again, and trust him on it not happening again, then it will repeat. Potentially with even more serious consequences and accusations in the future. How have you progressed this far in your relationship where he is now your fiancé, and then he springs something insane on you like this, where he should know that it's illogical from the get-go? I personally would start doubting that relationship, because yes, of course, you can work on these things, but he's so convinced, he is so convicted in his belief here that it's like, I don't know, man, what else is there in store in the future that you're just not going to believe me? You're going to believe people that are less important than me in this relationship. You're not going to do some critical thinking. You're not going to give me, your partner, the benefit of the doubt. It's always going to be their word against mine. That's not something I personally would want to sign up for. And now, onto the updates. We broke up. It's been an exhausting week, both at home and work. Basically, we're not engaged anymore. He's moving back to his parents, and our relationship is over while he works on himself. He wasn't cheating, nor was there a secret baby on the side. Half a yes to him having second thoughts, half yes to him being influenced by family and friends. I won't go too much into the details, just that his uncle's family were always awful to him. They were always the go-to babysitters, and he has trouble standing up to that generation of his family. He's impressionable, and he has trouble separating fact from fiction because of that and them. Another factor is that one of his formerly child-free friends announced that his wife is pregnant during New Year's, and he's been excited about it. My ex-fiancé is wondering if he would change his mind, especially since his parents do want to have grandchildren and have been asking if we're going to wait before having them. After dog-sitting for his uncle, apparently all that combined in his mind that I changed my mind and I would surprise him about it, which is the core of the matter for me. Whether he forgot that I had my tubes tied doesn't matter. He was projecting his fears, anxiety, and trauma onto me and punishing me for something that I didn't even do or say, and then made me out to be a deceptive partner because of that projection. He stopped trusting me because he was afraid of what the warped version he built up in his mind might do. That wasn't okay, and that is why I ended it. He's been moving his stuff out all week, and he told me that he's going back into therapy. His parents will be there to help him, and they separately apologized to me. They had no idea how bad his anxiety is. I'll be there to support him as a friend, and I've been trying to say that it's on pause, but typing this out also makes me realize that no matter what, I wouldn't be able to win against those fears, nor can I trust him to ever really fully trust me against them, assuming he ever did. Thank you for your input, Reddit. Some of the thoughts did help me steer the conversation, but ultimately it still boiled down to a broken trust, and I don't think that we're coming back from that. In the comments, Reality Junkie says, I would just cut all contact with him once he's moved out. Don't stay on as his friend. That never works. He needs to deal with his own issues on his own, and you deserve to be able to heal from this relationship and move on with your life. Right? I wouldn't even support him as a friend. What he did was awful. OP, his family is there to provide for him. Let him depart so you can carry on without him. Put some effort into getting better and moving on from this. Now it's not your responsibility to help him. OP says, yeah, I don't think I'll stay friends for long with him, but a lot of our circles overlap, and I don't want to lose friends over this yet. You can stay friendly without being friends. I.e., don't involve yourself in his mental health treatment, don't call to check on him and all that stuff. But if you are both invited to a mutual friend's event, just smile and say hello when you see him, and talk about the weather or something, and then move on. This really reminds me of my ex and how he ended up with wedding planning. OP definitely made the right decision. It's honestly odd how people's anxiety can manifest into self-sabotage. My friend's boyfriend broke up with her after getting accepted into med school. He was anxious and worried of his life path that he figured he wouldn't be able to make time for her. Ended up preemptively cutting ties with her cause of it. Came crawling back 2 weeks later, Lamau. They're engaged now, so go them. So he didn't want to be baby-trapped, but also wanted a child? He definitely needs a therapist and to not be in a relationship until he actually knows what he wants. I think he realized that he might want to baby-trap her, and then projected those fears because he can't handle potentially shameful feelings. In order to other the feeling, he had to have an other person to put that on. Yeah, it definitely sounds like a case of his priorities changed in his mind and he was envious of other people that had changed their minds with family, and him forgetting that she had her tubes tied was just an excuse. I feel like he couldn't roll with the story unless he pretended to forget that she had her tubes tied. And that level of mental gymnastics is yet, for me, another red flag, because what are you doing? You're trying so hard when you could just say, hey, let's have a discussion over this. I've been having thoughts recently that I've changed my mind on kids, and I know that's a deal breaker for you. Let's go to therapy so we can work this out together. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not mature enough to do that. Instead, it's easier to break this relationship by projecting my insecurities onto you, and then you can break up with me, and then I don't have to do any of that mental stress, and I can be the good guy at the end of the day because you're the crazy one. And then my family's all gonna agree, oh, of course she was trying to baby trap you. She could have adopted in the future, and imagine what that would have done to you. Regardless, congratulations on getting out of the relationship, OP, and yeah, it does seem like that friendship, quote-unquote, will be a slow burn to no contact, and good luck. Our next post is by a deleted user, titled, Husband Kicked the Door In. My husband, 29 male, and I, 30 female, have always had our issues. He has always had an anger problem. I never had a huge issue with it, considering he used to be easy to calm down. Our past couple of arguments have changed things though. Putting aside the fact that he's a narc, not quick to pull the narc card. If you want examples and evidence, ask, don't belittle me. He's become angry. A few months ago, I tried to walk away to get some space, and he picks me up and tries to hold me there. Now this argument, he kicked the bathroom door in. When I tried to tell him how not okay that was, he said he's just who he is. Now, 2 days later, he wants to talk, and I still don't even know what to say. I grew up watching my mother get whooped on, so I'm aware of the signs of DV, so please don't tell me to get out or divorce right the hell now. I'm looking for help in this instance right now. He wants to talk, and I don't even have the words. Am I wrong to say that I don't think there's anything more to talk about? In the comments, Lizzie Oates says, quote, I'm aware of the signs of DV, so please don't tell me to get out. Does this mean that you're working towards getting out or divorcing? Well, that's the plan until he accidentally kills you. You have so much life to live without being in fear. It sounds like his anger is escalating and he is no longer easy to calm down. You know how this story will end. He wasn't like that in the beginning, he only hits me sometimes, he's always sorry and says he won't do it again. He destroyed property to get to you. Make a plan, stay safe, and move. I am very concerned that you don't want advice on how to leave safely. He is escalating, and this never ends well for the woman, and it can also end the lives of the children. Please seek assistance from your local women's refuge or helpline. Leaving is the most dangerous time, so seek support. She's looking for any answer that isn't the only answer, and she knows that answer but doesn't want to accept it, so she's reaching for anything other than that answer. It is so common in these situations that I could write a book on it. You know this is DV. You know it's escalating. You know he is gaslighting you a few days after. You know he doesn't respect and care about your feelings. You know he doesn't care if he scares you or the kids, damaging personal property out of anger to incite fear. You know this is DV. You grew up with DV. You need to separate and file for divorce. This is absolutely not fixable, and you know that too. It doesn't matter that he wants to talk. Not a single bit. Of course he will be sorry, and probably really meant it. He probably doesn't like this about himself either, but he cannot stop. He cannot even stop to love you. He cannot even stop knowing that he is severely harming the kids by them witnessing this. He won't stop, it will just escalate. You don't need any words. There are no words that can fix this. So don't worry about finding the right words. It will escalate when you try to leave or mention it's over. It is a dangerous situation. You know this also, but your brain can hardly believe it, so you try to convince yourself differently. If you cannot find a way to love yourself enough to leave, love your kids enough. He is doing lifelong damage. He already has, and it's not fixable. You staying contributes to damaging them. Don't do that. Leave for them. The younger they are when you leave, the better. I'm so sorry, but don't wait. Don't justify. Don't try to understand why he is the way he is. You never will, and neither will he. And it doesn't matter anyway. You don't need to understand it to take action. Good luck. Yeah, what an absolutely terrifying situation to be a part of here, and OP, if you're looking to be on the next episode of True Crime about how your husband killed you and the kids because you stayed despite all the warnings, be my guest, but that sounds absolutely like where this is headed. He is not safe to be around. Please leave. And now, onto the update. Just so no one worries, I was making dinner and feeding the kids. I entertained the idea of his talk. It went something like this. He says, "What's wrong?" And I just stare at him, and he says, "Is this about the door thing? Is that what this is about?" And I say, "Kind of." Didn't even get to finish, and he was already on to the, "Are you serious? I understand that was out of line." And this fool said, "I'm sorry, but after 10 years of marriage, you know what gets me that way." I didn't say anything else, so naturally he got more mad and walked away. I think he's sleeping. I haven't cared to look. After I get my kids in bed, I'm pouring some wine, Googling divorce lawyers, and making calls tomorrow. For those of you who were blunt but somewhat kind, thank you. Seeing this go on and having it happen to you for the first time is wildly different, so I apologize for coming off cross and/or ignorant despite trying to say, I know what's happening. I appreciate some of y'all's understanding but firm suggestions. In the comments, Chaos Flame Member says, "It's just who I am. Doesn't count if you're harming people verbally, emotionally, physically. I hope OP gets herself and her kids out of there. If this is who you are and not what you do, the more of a reason to get away as soon as possible. I'm just a guy who kicks in doors while I'm mad. Deal with it. Cool, I'm just someone who won't live with a door kicker in her. It's just who I am now. And if I did, you deserved it. Classical narcissist. Look what you made me do. Never marry a cop." It's early here, and I don't have my glasses on, but did I miss her saying he's a cop? I skimmed it a couple more times and still didn't see it. That being said, definitely agree that marrying a cop could be a very bad thing. Literally, the only man I was ever frightened of was a coworker at the time. Other times, I got angry because my fight, flight, freeze, fawn instincts lean heavily towards fight. He's a cop now. Our next post is by user Undercover Regit, titled, "Am I the asshole here for freezing out my wife after she told people that having sex with me does nothing for her?" For context, we, male 56 and female 47, have been together for 26 years, married for over 20 years, one child. We always try to make the most out of our weekends together, and yesterday was no exception. We had a day out, shopping and food, then met up with acquaintances for a few drinks before heading home. The subject got around to relationships and how to keep the flame burning. One of the younger women asked my wife how to keep sex enjoyable after being with the person for so long. She says, "I don't know. Having sex with OP does nothing for me since our child, 18, was born." There was an awkward silence, and people started making excuses to leave. Traveling home, mostly in silence, I asked her if she thought that was an appropriate comment and that I wanted her to apologize. As per usual, she doubled down and blamed me for being too sensitive. Since then, there has been no communication. OP, it sounds like there hasn't been communication for 18 years. In the comments, Dark Mode Knows Win says, "Have you asked your wife how she would feel if you had said something similar answering that question?" This part, that was extremely hurtful to say about your partner and in the company of others. This is extremely hurtful to say about an ex-partner in the company of others. OP's wife needs a reality check that other people have feelings. I have a story. I was at a bar with a buddy and his girlfriend. They were arguing lightly while we were watching the Giants spoil the Patriots' undefeated season. It was probably one of the best football games of the 2000s, so she wasn't getting 100% attention from anyone. That pissed her off, so she starts in with the classless small dick insults anyone within 15 feet could hear. I've never been so embarrassed to be sitting next to such a trashy person in my life. I always lead with, "How would you have felt if... ... Takes it from looking like you're defensive to an honest conversation. Some people really do operate on the idea of, it's different if it happens to them. Hopefully this wife has at least a little empathy. What do you do to the not insignificant amount of people who would unironically say some bullshit like, "Me? Yeah, I would have taken things as a joke and not be so sensitive like you," with a straight face? And that's the difference between wanting to solve problems and wanting to win fights. A wife publicly stating that she hasn't been sexually satisfied by her husband for 18 years without ever mentioning it to him is not a fight. It's a potentially marriage-ending revelation. Obviously, I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but all we have to go on is OP's description. While I agree there's a good chance that would also solve a problem when he treats her exactly as she has him, and she just learns how shitty it is from the other side. Nobody gets taught a lesson in real life. In real life, they double down or get further insulted and then make an internal pact to try and make you unhappy for the rest of forever. Correct. In the history of the world, there has never been a person who treats others like shit to start that has changed their behavior upon being treated like shit in return. Not the asshole. It's pretty messed up to broadcast things like that in public. If she is dissatisfied with her sex life, she should discuss it with you in private. She should have discussed it in private 18 years ago. It would have been a gut punch to hear without it being in front of friends. The thought that she would call you oversensitive to hear that in front of friends is incredibly callous. You have to consider that the only possible explanation is that she doesn't give a shit about him, his feelings, and that she probably got a kick out of humiliating him in public. And she is so idiotic to not realize that saying something like that in front of other people reflects so much more in her than it does him. That group of people do not think highly of her anymore, if they ever did. This is so true, OP. We were friends with a couple, a longtime friend of my husband's, and the wife treated him like dirt. I thought she was awful, putting him down, treating him like she was better than him, belittling, and he was always very nice, kind, supportive. I never thought badly of the husband, but thought the wife was horrible. Sometimes it's hard for the belittled one to realize what's actually being done to them until someone addresses it for them. I dated a girl who was so sweet at home, but treated me like dirt in front of people. I'd bring it up on the way home and she'd apologize, saying, "I didn't mean anything by it," etc. We visited my best friend's parents one Christmas Eve, and it didn't click for me until he brought it up a few days later that she called me an asshole in front of everyone there, including his parents, wife, and kids, because I didn't put the ottoman that I was using for my plate in front of her so she could put her feet up. It was like, oh, that's not normal, and other people see it when I was just used to it. She just admitted that the past 18 years have had meaningless sex for her. Not sure if you can recover from that one, ever. Not the asshole. He should have said, "I agree, it's become more of an obligation. The enjoyment has left the building." We can be certain that would end their sex life completely. It's obvious that she doesn't care about sex at all, and just does it because she feels she has to. She'd love if he didn't care about it also. She would jump at the chance to just cross that off her to-do list forever. The problem there is that even kind of obligation sex, as long as it's not forced, it's willing and not unpleasant, it's still shown to be generally good for a relationship. It keeps a lot of other forms of intimacy alive too. Flirting, kissing, cuddling, all those good things. If sex goes away, so does the rest. My ex said something to the effect of how she'd be happier if we never had penetrative sex again. I was also fine with that, for a variety of reasons that I'll distill down to saying that I now identify as a-spec. So while our normal, everyday physical affection, cuddling, hugging, kissing, etc., and non-penetrative sex, me giving oral specifically, remained unchanged, I stopped having penetrative sex with her. Not even 3 full months later, she was mad at me because we weren't screwing anymore. I brought up her prior statement about penetrative sex, and she haughtily informed me that A, she said it just to hurt me, B, I wasn't supposed to take her seriously, and C, a real man would have ignored her and not gotten so butthurt about some small silly shit like that. In hindsight though, it was just another power game where it mattered exactly F all what I did. I was just going to be wrong about it the next time she wanted to fight, no matter how I would respond. Immediate goodbye, thanks for playing. And now, on to the updates. She has said that she meant penetrative sex means nothing to her as she is unable to orgasm that way since childbirth. That is not what she said in public. I knew there was an issue, bought the equipment/balls to help her tighten up, but they were never used. Sex would consist of a lot of foreplay, oral, and occasionally toy play. This would give her 3 or 4 orgasms before penetration. I thought she enjoyed the intimacy. I don't guilt her into sex. When we had our child, I waited 10 months before we resumed physical intimacy. I'm not going to insult her to make myself feel better. 2 wrongs make it a hell of a lot worse. She has tried to blame the comment on the menopause. She is perimenopause, and the few drinks that she had, but I'm not buying it. That's an excuse, not an apology. I'm not the typical Scotsman. No deep-fried Mars bars for me. I do a physical job and run 5K every second day. I was a 32-inch waist when we married, and I'm a 34-inch waist 20-odd years later. To be truthful, I'm feeling shock, shame, embarrassment, and emasculated. I can't ever imagine being intimate with her again. And that's where I'm going to end today's story, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.